In this video, we're going to look at how to solve a linear system by using the elimination method. So previously, we talked about how to use the substitution method to solve a linear system. So here we're going to show you a different method. So in this case, when we look at the equations, we focus on the numbers in front of x's or y's. So these numbers are called coefficients. So if we look at the 3 and the 6, and they are 3 actually can go into 6 two times. And then let's look at the numbers in front of y's. So positive 5 and negative 5. And notice that positive 5 and negative 5, they're opposite of each other. And this is the key to the elimination method. Now previously, when we did the substitution method, we didn't really need to look at the coefficients in front of the numbers in front of x or y. So what we did is to get y by itself and then plug into the other equation. But to do the elimination method, we need to focus on the numbers in front of them. And because when we have two equations, so let's say left side and right hand side, the first equation, left hand side equals the right hand side. And if we have, say, 3 pounds equals 3 pounds, 5 pounds equals 5 pounds, and we can add both sides, and to get 3 plus 5 is 8, 3 plus 5 is 8, and they're still equal to each other. So that means if we have two equations, we can add the left-hand side and left-hand side. It's going to be equal to right-hand side and equals right-hand side. It's exactly the case we have here. So we have the first equation, and then we have the second equation, but we can add the left-hand sides and the left-hand sides and right-hand sides and right-hand sides. And why do we do that? Notice that we have these two opposite numbers, positive 5 and negative 5. So let's see what happens if we add them. So I take the first equation, 3x plus 5y equals negative 1, and the second equation. And we are going to line them up and add them. So this is what I did. I add the left-hand side, so 3x plus 6x is 9x. 5y plus negative 5y, they cancel each other because 5 plus negative 5 is 0. And 0y will give us with 0 because 0 times y is 0. And then on the right-hand side, negative 1 plus 28, that gives us 27. And after we add the left-hand sides and right-hand sides, they should still be equal to each other. But a very good result occurs here, and we don't have y's anymore. And notice that y's are canceled. So this y and this y, they're canceled. Originally, notice both equations have x and y in there, and we cannot really just get one of the x, say x by itself, because you can get x by itself, but y is still going to be there. Or you can get y by itself, but x is going to be there. But when we solve these equations, we need to get a number for x and get a number for y. So we cannot have x or y in our answers. And this elimination method, after we add them, we successfully eliminated the y's. So the y's will disappear. We end up with the equation with only x. And now I can get this x by itself by dividing both sides by 9. And so we got the answer for x. Now, how do we get the answer for y? And because in this case, the numbers in front of y, they are opposite of each other. But the numbers in front of x, they are not opposite of each other. So here, because the numbers in front of y's, they're opposite of each other, so we can eliminate the y's. So this is the key. If you want to eliminate y's, you have to make sure the numbers in front of them are opposite of each other. So now I want to eliminate x's so I can get y solved for y. But when we look at the equations, the numbers, they're not opposite of each other. So if I add them, I'm going to get 9x as we did here. I'm not going to be able to get rid of x's. So here's the idea. They're not opposite of each other, 3 and 6, but I can turn them into opposite of each other. So in the first equation, because we know 3, if I can multiply 3 by negative 2, it's going to give me negative 6. And negative 6 is exactly the opposite of 6. So here is the idea. So we're going to take the first equation, which is 3x plus 5y equals -1. And we're going to multiply both sides. This is one of the operations we talked about before when we solved the equations. And any equation, you can multiply both sides by the same number. It's not going to change the equation. So since we want to turn this number 3 in front of x into opposite of 6, which is -6, I decided to multiply this first entire equation by -2. So as you can see in red here, so we multiply by -2, every term multiply by -2. So now let's simplify this. -2 times 3 is -6x. -2 times 5y is -10y, and -2 times -1 is +2. So now when we look at this equation, and the number in front of x is -6, which is the opposite of the number in front of x in the second equation. So let's take the equation we just got. Again, this red equation, I got it from the first equation. I just multiply both sides by -2. And then we just bring down, copy down the second equation, doing nothing. But when we line them up, notice this time, the numbers in front of x, they are x's, they are opposite of each other. So I can go ahead and add them now. So when I add them, I will have -6 plus +6, 0, cancel out. And -10 plus -5, that's -15, and y. And 2 plus 28, that's 30. And in order to get rid of -15, I just need to divide both sides by -15. And they cancel out, and 30 divided by -15, that gives us -2. So here, in this case, in this example, we used what we call the elimination method. And in this method, we try to if we already have the numbers in front of one of the variables there as opposite of each other, we can go ahead and add them. If they're not opposites of each other, we can multiply some numbers as needed to turn that number into opposite of the other. That way, we can eliminate x's to get y. So the idea is you have to eliminate y in order to solve for x. You have to eliminate x in order to solve for y. So now let's look at another example. So in this case, and notice first let's look at number in front of x. They're the same. So if I want to turn them into opposite of each other, I just need to take one of the equations and multiply by -1. That would turn 8 to -8. So this is what I did. I took the first equation, 8x minus 3y equals 10, and I multiply both sides by -1, the red number here. So after multiplication, I got -8 and plus positive 3y. And that's because negative times negative gives us a positive. So that's why we got a positive 3y here. And -1 times 10, that gives us -10. So we take, again, this equation is obtained from multiplying the first equation by -1. Now I'm going to use this equation, and okay, I'm going to put, so I'm going to, the first one here is the one we just got, multiply the first equation by -1. The second one, we just bring it down here. And now notice that the numbers in front of x's are opposite of each other, so we can just add both sides. So when we do addition, they cancel out. When we do addition, 3 plus 7 is 10. When we do addition, -10 plus -20 is -30. Now we divide both sides by 10 to get rid of that 10 there. And -30 divided by 10 is -3. So now we found the answer for y, which is -3. But since we have two unknowns, x and y, we have to make sure we found answers for both x and y. So here I eliminated x. Here notice I eliminated x. That's how I was able to find y. So now if I want to find what x is, I have to eliminate x. Eliminate y, so I can have x by itself. So let's take a look at the numbers in front of y's. And notice that first of all, they're not opposite of each other. Secondly, 3 doesn't go into 7. Like in the previous example in here, numbers in front of y, they're opposite of each other. We could just add them directly without doing anything. And numbers in front of x, they're not opposite of each other. But since 3 goes into 6, I was able to multiply by -2. And the ones we just did, they're not opposite of each other. In the numbers in front of x, I can turn it into, because 8 goes into 8. Actually, I just need to multiply one of the 8s by -1. But 3 and 7, they're not opposite of each other. They're not the same thing. And 3 does not even go into 7. So how do we turn them into opposite of each other? So here we're going to have to use the concept we talked about in our first class, which is the least common multiple. 3 and 7, the least common multiple is going to be 21, because 3 goes into 21 7 times and 7 goes into 21 3 times. So if I take -3, the number -3 that they give me, and multiply by 7, that is going to turn the number into 21, -21. And if I take the number 7, +7, multiplied by +3, that's going to give me a +21. And now they are opposite of each other. So this is what I'm going to do. So as you can see, the first equation, I took the first equation and multiply. So I took the first equation and multiply both sides by 7. The red 7, 7, 7, 7. And this is determined by the number in front of y. Because we have -3, I need to multiply by 7. That's why I have to multiply everything by 7. Now, because the number in front of y is 7, I need to multiply by 3. So here for the second equation, I multiply by 3. Now, after multiplication, you can see I got -21, because I did a -7 times 3. And +3 times 7, that's +21, and which are opposites of each other now. The other numbers, whatever we get from multiplication, we just copy them. So we have 7 times 8 is 56, 7 times 10, 70, 3 times 8, 24, and 3 times -20, -60. So now let's add them. After we add 56x and 24x, we got 80x. And these two cancel each other. 70 plus -60, we got +10. And in order to get x by itself, we divide both sides by 80. And notice that they have 10 in common, so let's divide both numbers by 10. So we have 1/8. And now since we found both numbers for numbers for both variables, and we can stop.